Mike Willis, for the ones of you that don't know me. This is Lauren Carroll. She's a meteorologist for the National Weather Service, and she's been gracious enough to come and do a weather safety presentation for us tonight. And we're going to have it recorded and hopefully be able to share it on our media outlets for the folks that couldn't get out tonight and come and see it. So, and we've also got Fox 46 News here to do a little clip on it because they're trying to put out some preparedness information for folks. So, Karen, thank y'all.
All right, sounds good, folks. Is there, let's see, I don't know, can y'all see any of that? Might we want to dim the lights or something? Let me see.
I'll get some light.
Okay, perfect. All right, y'all, let me turn this on. Okay, a little bit, hold on. A little bit better? Y'all here? Perfect. All right, we're going, I was saying I was at the tail end of a sinus infection, so hope you can hear me. All right, well, welcome everyone. I'm glad y'all are here. I'm Lauren Carroll. I'm a meteorologist with the National Weather Service down at Greenville-Spartanburg in South Carolina. I was actually born and raised in Greenville. So South Carolina native, lived there for most of my life. Went down to Florida State briefly for my undergrad. Loved it so much I stayed for my master's. I would like to add they were good when I was down there. That went downhill after I graduated, but that's okay, love them through it. But yeah, and then I came back up here and I've been at the Weather Service up at GSP for about 2.5, almost 3 years now, and love what I do, it's a lot of fun. But what I'm gonna talk about tonight is keeping you and your family safe from weather, especially weather threats that we get in the Carolinas. Normal weather safety presentation in the Great Plains, you're talking about big old tornadoes, that's kind of about it. Big old hail, stuff like that. Well, Carolinas, we get a lot of stuff. We get winter weather, we get severe weather, we get tornadoes, we range the gamut. We even get remnants of tropical cyclones. So I'll go through all of that, and hopefully everyone will pick up just a little something tonight. So I'm gonna start by making you a deal. I'm not gonna ask you to do anything that I haven't done for my own family. I don't wanna make this complicated, I don't wanna make this hard, just simple. Simple things that we can all do to prepare and just get a little bit more prepared for severe weather. There's my family, myself and my husband, my parents, my brother and sister-in-law now. I've done this for all of them. I've sat down in their houses. They might not have liked it, but we made a plan for them as to what to do, and them too, my little pups. Gotta get ready for your pets as well. You think you yourself might be sheltering in your house, well, you're probably gonna have your pets with you. So plans for them as well. We actually have seen that, a lot of the fires out west. People make plans for themselves to evacuate, no idea what to do with their pets. So thinking about that ahead of time is gonna be key. I'm gonna start off with probably the biggest question I get from almost everybody. I get this on the phone, I get this on social media, anybody I meet. Actually, I got this from my husband this afternoon, which is kind of sad. I don't know if that's worse for me or him. But the difference between a watch and a warning. This refers to any type of winter weather warning. Actually, this county, y'all right here under a winter storm warning, or winter storm watch, I'm sorry. Right now, not a warning yet, but we're thinking that direction, I'll put it that way. This refers to any type of tornado, severe thunderstorm watch. Watch means be prepared. Watch means it's possible. Be prepared, monitor information, keep an eye on the forecast, stay alert. The warning stage, that's where we think it's imminent. Warning means take action, it's happening, it's a go. Take action to either for a tornado, take shelter, take action to prepare yourself. Get down, get under cover, prepare to be ready for whatever we're warning, whether it's a tornado, winter storm, severe thunderstorm, prepare for that to actually be happening because it is happening. So thunderstorms, this is the first threat I'm gonna talk about. It's the southeast. We get thunderstorms all the time. They're most common during the warm months, of course, anytime from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m., but really any time of the year they're possible. They're just most common during those warm months. Any time of the day is possible too. I know we've all been woken up 2 a.m. It's thundering. It's not the most common, but it does also happen. And all thunderstorms do contain lightning. This seems like a duh point to a lot of people, but you'd be surprised the number of people that don't understand that all thunderstorms are actually dangerous, not just the severe ones. So to stay safe, I'm gonna have you seek shelter inside a sturdy building. This is actually a huge mistake. People think a dugout, baseball, springtime, people think a dugout is actually safe shelter. It is not. A picnic shelter you're out of the rain. It is not. Lightning can still strike you if it isn't a closed shelter or your vehicle. It is not safe. If there's no good shelter available, get in your car, roll the windows up. It's not ideal, but it should keep you safe from the lightning. Here we go. See a flash, dash inside. Thunder roars, go indoors, same message. The key, there's been a lot of studies done. When is it safe to be outside when it's thundering? The rule is, if you can hear the thunder, it is not safe to be outside. If you can hear it, you can be struck by lightning. The next rule is you have to wait the 30 minutes after you hear the last clap of thunder. That still applies. So anybody, coaches, anything like that, we actually have a lot of questions from coaches. Hey, when can we start playing again? We want to get the kids out. You have to wait the full 30 minutes. We've seen the bolt from the blue. Thunderstorms as far as 10 miles away can actually produce lightning that can strike you. So severe thunderstorms are a little bit of a different animal. Only about 10% of all thunderstorms actually become severe. Now, to be severe, you need one of these three things. So winds of 58 miles per hour or greater. It's pretty hard to measure winds of 58 miles an hour across most of the area, so that's basically strong enough to knock down multiple healthy trees. I'm not talking about a Bradford pear branch on the ground or anything. Multiple healthy trees would go down. Hail, an inch in diameter or greater, that's a quarter size, about this big, or a tornado. If it doesn't have one of those three things, it's not a severe thunderstorm. That doesn't mean the storm isn't dangerous, but it's not a severe thunderstorm that we think is actually going to pose a big threat to life. So to stay safe, this one, your car's not going to work. You're going to have to seek shelter inside a sturdy building. In a lot of cases, you do want to get away from those windows as well. These severe thunderstorms, if they can take trees down, tree on car, that's not going to end well for many people. Actually, we see that a lot in this area. A lot of deaths occur because people thought they were safe from a severe thunderstorm in their vehicle. Tree falls on the vehicle, or vehicle hits the car, something like that if they were driving. That's where we see a lot of injuries and actually, unfortunately, a few deaths as well. So this is a common question I get. Was it a tornado? With a lot of wind damage, was it a tornado? Or was it a severe thunderstorm? Was it a wet microburst? In our area, in general, it's going to be a wet microburst, right? This is just from a severe thunderstorm. It's not going to be tornado warned because it's a severe thunderstorm. It's not a tornado. But, look at this damage. This was an actual survey that our office went out on in Clio, South Carolina. Not all that far from here. This was April 27th in 2010. That's the same as, it's a weak tornado, but 95 mile an hour winds, those are going to mess your house up. So we really want everybody to take severe thunderstorm warnings seriously. No, it's not a tornado, but that doesn't mean it isn't extremely dangerous. In our area, actually, the most common source of damage that we see to property is from things like this. It's from a wet microburst. It's not a tornado. Tornadoes are actually pretty rare. Usually maybe 6 or 7 a year in our area. Wet microbursts, hundreds, if not thousands, in really active summer months as well. Damaging microbursts, a little more rare than that, but there's still hundreds of them across our area every year. So tornadoes, this is the good news. Most tornadoes in the Carolinas are weak, and they're pretty brief. So 75% have winds of 110 miles an hour or less. 110 miles an hour is still pretty scary. It'll still mess your house up. But that's not like those Great Plains crust vacuuming, giant tornadoes that you have to be underground to survive. In general, a normal house, you're going to have some windows missing, you're going to have some damage, but it will stand up to this. So if you know how to take shelter properly in your normal house, you're probably going to be just fine. They're most common in the spring, so March through May, but actually we have a second severe weather season in the southeast, and it's actually in November. We get in a lot of cases, the springtime tornadoes, those are from the switch from winter to summer. You have cold air masses, you have warm air masses, you have moisture from the Gulf of Mexico. They're all combining in the spring as we're transitioning seasons. Well, fall, we're transitioning seasons as well. So it's not quite as dangerous as it can be in March and May, but we've actually seen quite a few tornadoes happen in November as well in this area. So to stay safe, you want to take shelter away from doors and windows. This is going to be key. You want to be inside a house, inside a sturdy building. Car is not going to work in this case. Go to the lowest floor of your home. Winds actually increase in speed as you go up in the atmosphere. So as low as you can get, underground's best. But in this area, you're probably okay just on the lowest floor of your home. Mobile homes, not safe ever. No mobile home is going to be safe for any type of tornado. Usually there's some type of group area. Y'all can come on in. It's all right. Go on. Sorry. You're good. No worries. worries, no worries, come on. So mobile homes never safe. Mobile home is we've seen them rolled even just by a severe thunderstorm. We've seen them rolled, we've seen them destroyed, we've actually seen hail punch through the outside of the mobile home. So you are going to want to identify in advance before anything gets warned, any tornado, any severe thunderstorm, a separate place to go. So a separate type of shelter that's a sturdy building. I mean, it could be the Walmart down the street, but a separate place to go. So this next type of weather I'm going to talk about is actually, it can be a little bit misleading. So I'm going to show you weather fatalities we measured in 2017. This is just in the United States. Rip currents, actually in number 3, killed 70 people. Heat, extreme heat, killed 107 people, including actually a couple in our area. But the biggest weather-related killer in the United States in 2017, and this has been happening for years and years, was actually flooding. And most of those were people that drove in their cars into floodwaters. That was not people where the floodwaters came up, they were in their homes, they got swept away. They saw the floodwaters, they were in their cars, and they on purpose drove into the floodwaters. That's actually a good thing. That is a good thing that we know that now, because you have a choice. It's not like this is just coming for you and you can't do anything. You can do something. You can make that choice. Don't drive into the floodwaters. So flooding in our area, it's most common in the spring months in the Carolinas, though I think we've all seen this can happen any time of the year. In fact, we have a flood watch up for our area right now. We just got 2 to 3 inches of rain a couple days ago, and tomorrow we're expecting another 2 to 3 inches of rain, which can start to cause problems on some streams. So to stay safe, this might unfortunately end up being pretty relevant. If water is actually threatening your location, you see a creek rising, close to you, seek higher ground. That is, going to be the number one priority, is to avoid the floodwaters. But if a flood warning is issued, so a flood warning, that means flooding is imminent or occurring already, just please try not to drive unless you're fleeing those floodwaters. If you don't have to, don't get out on the roads. That also saves the time and energy of first responders as well. If they are not worried about people driving into floodwaters, then they can actually put their attentions in other places rather than, trying to rescue people, drag them out of the floodwaters, stuff like that. If you do come across water over a roadway, this is pretty easy. Turn around, don't drown. That's all. If you remember nothing else from this talk, please remember that. Because again, flooding is the number one weather-related killer in the US. It's pretty scary. And the fact that people actually choose to continually drive into floodwaters. Actually, did y'all see the video of the bus driver up in the Midwest who drove the bus with a child on it into floodwaters? You honestly start to think, what are people doing? It is illegal as well to drive around barricades. So if you survive, you can get a pretty darn hefty fine, ticket, all of that from the police. If the barricade is up, even if you don't see flooding or road problems and things like that, there's probably a reason it's there. It probably was not a mistake. The first responders chose to deploy resources there to put that up. So you do want to make sure that you heed those. Another point, all you see is water over the road here, right? Are you 100% sure that road is still there? That the road hasn't been washed out underneath? I'm not, because that happens a lot actually in the Carolinas, and I went to school at Florida State. That happens a lot in Florida. Not the big sinkholes you think of, but you get that sandy soil, you get that clay like we have up here, and you'll just crumble the sides of roads and you won't even be able to see it underneath all that water. So my next point actually encompasses everything that I talked about up to this point, basically, tropical systems. This was actually Michael, just from about a month ago or so. So heavy rain, flooding, landslides are going to be a problem. The strong winds that can knock down trees, take down power lines, we saw quite a bit of that, and then tornadoes as well. So really, we call it the big three, basically, of a tropical cyclone. Those are all threats. To stay safe, this gets a little more complicated, but the nice part is hurricanes you can usually see coming for a while. A severe thunderstorm, maybe you have 30 minutes to an hour to see it coming. Hurricanes, we pretty much know. Track forecasting, we're pretty good at this point. We can give you 3, 4, 5 days heads up. So stay aware of the forecast. If you're aware, you know what's coming to you. So stay aware of the forecast, especially during hurricane season. Check on flood insurance for your home before the season starts. Flood insurance policies usually take 30 days to actually go into effect. So you want to go ahead, and if there's a named tropical cyclone, this actually, I talked to our insurance agent. If there is a named tropical system out there, they cannot write flood policies. So once you see one coming, that is too late to go ahead and get flood insurance on your home. I say this because I have some very close friends who live in Houston. They actually work at the Weather Service in Houston, Galveston. They're not in a 1,000-year floodplain, not even close to it. And they actually lost part of their home to flooding. And they did not have flood insurance. They were outside of the 1,000-year floodplain, the FEMA floodplain. They were outside of all of these. Flooding was not supposed to be a threat. They had water damage in their home, and not just the basement, actually up to the first floor. So it is something to think about. Assess your risk. Really, really think seriously about it. In some areas it's more expensive, in some it's not. But it's something to take seriously at least. Look at your options. Talk to your agent. Ours was actually very helpful, and my husband and I are out of the 1,000-year floodplain. We choose to get flood insurance. There are a couple creeks that are not close to our house, but close enough where we're concerned. So we did choose to do that. Keep all the trees near your homes trimmed up. Seems, relatively simple, but it's a great idea. Any dead trees you have in your home, make sure those are taken care of. Those are what become debris. When you get strong winds, even just winds up to 30, 40 miles an hour, not even really a tropical storm, those are what become debris and will be flying around. And finally, make an emergency kit. I'm going to talk about what to put in it in just a second in case you lose power or in case of an evacuation order. In general, it would be unusual to be told to evacuate here. Probably not for a tropical system. You're not going to be evacuating from a hurricane or something like that. What would probably be happening, and this actually happened in McDowell County, just to our south here. In May, we get lots of rainfall from a tropical system. We had a potential dam break. We actually had a mudslide on one side of the dam up by Lake Lure. And that actually prompted about 1,000 people had to evacuate just below the dam. It could actually happen. There are plenty of dams, landslides, mudslides happen up here in this area. It's possible. So nobody wants to think about having to leave your home. But if you're prepared, it's going to make it a lot easier and a lot smoother if you do have to leave your home. Now, this is strangely relevant today, winter weather. So it's most common during the mid to late winter in January and February, but it can happen, actually it's happened as early as October up here, and it can happen as late as March or even April up here as well. So ice, snow, sleet, all possible. Unfortunately, that makes it a lot harder being near the Appalachians. It's tricky. It's very, very tricky in our area. This is not, Chicago, where you're probably just going to get a nice powder and be done with it, or the Rockies. It's probably going to be some combination of this, so it's really hard to forecast here. But to stay safe, the key, just be ready to shelter in place. If you don't have to go out, please don't. Have your emergency kit ready. Have all your necessary food, water, any extra medications, anything like that. Make sure you have everything you need, and really you need to do this for at least 3 days. Have enough. Have you heard of first 3 on me? The first 3 days after a disaster happens. You sometimes can't count on responders even being able to get to you for those first 3 days. If you have 3 days in general, you're gonna be good. A week is better. A week would be ideal. I have a friend in Panama City, actually, who was very heavily impacted by Hurricane Michael. They had a week's worth of supplies that was still almost not enough for them. So keep that in mind. 3 days at least is best, but a week, up to a week or even more would be ideal, just based on what you can do. And we just don't have enough room to store it, basically, in my house. But if y'all do, that's a great idea. Be ready to lose power. Just be ready for it. Make sure you do have a way to keep warm, whether it's your fireplace, make sure you have wood, gas, or if you're on propane, make sure you have plenty of propane. Actually, a great thing to think about, get your propane tanks filled for your grill, if you have a gas grill. Charcoal, and stuff for your gas grill so you can actually eat food that you want to eat, not just peanut butter. Peanut butter, will keep you sustained for the duration, but if you want to grill something, that's a nice thing to do. And then please don't drive unless it's really absolutely necessary. It's also, and I should mention this, up in the mountains here, we're expecting up to a ½ inch of ice. It does not take anything close to that to make roads look like ice rinks. Actually, 2 of our biggest events that have happened as far as crashes from icy roads, things like that, there was actually only, we call it a trace of precipitation measured. It wasn't even 1/100th of an inch. It was a trace. It was basically mist, not really even rain falling, but it froze on surfaces. And actually, this happened 2 years ago in Charlotte in November, and 2 people died. There were over 200 wrecks in about 2 hours, and 2 people passed because their cars skidded off the road and went off a bridge, actually. So it does not take that, you know, it looks scary, oh, 1/2 inch of ice, and that is absolutely scary. That's where you're gonna lose a lot of power, but it does not take anything close to that. So for areas outside the mountains here, including Morganton, coming up here in I guess it'd be Thursday morning, you know, we expect the freezing rain to be a lot patchier, you know, probably not a 1/2 inch all over the whole county or anything like that, but it's not gonna take a whole lot. So even that patchy freezing rain could pose some pretty serious problems. And the last thing I'm gonna touch on is wildfires. I had some details on this, was debating whether or not to include it, but it's become pretty relevant, I think. Everyone would probably agree in the last week or so. So they're most common in our area in the fall and during any type of drought scenario. Actually, 2016, November of 2016 was the worst fire season our area has seen, the mountains of western North Carolina, and it was almost 30 years, was what some of our fire chiefs were telling us. Days with gusty winds and low relative humidity, so dry, gusty days, those are the days that are most dangerous for burning. In our area, actually, I just recently heard this statistic, so on the East Coast, most fires, 80%, or some people think even greater, are human-caused. Wildfires are human-caused, so people chose to burn on days when they probably shouldn't have been burning. So that's number one for staying safe. Always check local burn restrictions before you decide to burn something. Burn your leaves, you know, burn yard debris, anything like that. Unfortunately, this has happened. In 2016, this happened multiple times and cost millions of dollars as far as the state of North Carolina, because people just felt like burning and didn't really care that there was a burn ban in place, that the conditions were very poor on certain days for burning. Another key, if you do know that there are wildfires going on in your area, have an emergency kit. All your important paperwork, your home insurance policies, especially, that ends up being a really big one, car titles, things like that, valuables, anything that is irreplaceable that you absolutely cannot replace, have them together in case an evacuation is ordered. It's, again, not common in our area, but it actually did happen. This picture is from the Party Rock fire. Actually, it's on the North Carolina-South Carolina state line 2 years ago in 2016. And there were evacuations, mandatory evacuations ordered. This particular fire right here did not consume any structures, but there were other fires in 2016 that did consume structures in the mountains of western North Carolina. So again, not as common as it is out on the West Coast, but still a pretty big problem, and could be, given the right conditions. So, I'm talking about these watches, warnings, bad weather. How are you gonna find out about that? How are you gonna get the alerts? First one, wireless emergency alerts. Who has heard of wireless emergency alerts? WEA. Yeah, on your cell phone? So these actually are based on cell towers, different cell towers, and if they're inside a warning or not. So if we issue a tornado warning, the cell tower is gonna send out that tornado warning and ping your phone. So what I ask, WEA alerts, the wireless emergency alerts, should be turned on automatically on all new phones that are bought nowadays. Please don't turn them off. I know it can be annoying. You know, you get Amber Alerts on your phone. Y'all might have seen the Amber Alerts that come through on your phones, things like that. Please don't turn them off. I know it can get annoying, but these have actually, I got a call from a woman in the floods in May who said that the wireless emergency alert on her cell phone actually saved her life. Her family was camping, so they're away from their TVs, away from almost everything else, and she got the alert. They evacuated the campground, and shortly after that, it was flooded. So she got her family out, which was very good. Apps. Nowadays, most people have cell phones. If you have a smartphone, apps are fantastic. FEMA has a really good one. Among other things, it actually has other great information, the FEMA app does, but among other things, you can configure it to alert you for a certain county. If there is a severe thunderstorm warning, a tornado warning, a flood warning, anything like that, winter storm warning, you can configure it to tell you. And I'll actually bring it up in just a second so everyone can have the opportunity if you'd like to put that on your phone. NOAA weather radio, also a good one. NOAA weather radios, once you set it up for your location, they will wake you in the middle of the night. That becomes a big deal with a lot of flooding. Unfortunately, nocturnal flooding causes, I believe the last statistic in 2017 was 65% of deaths were nocturnal, were overnight. So people either didn't get the alert, or they, weren't paying attention, went out to go drive somewhere, accidentally drove into floodwaters because they couldn't see the floodwaters. So that is huge. Make sure you have something that is going to wake you up in the middle of the night. Local alerts, HyperReach, we're going to get more on that in just a little bit, but HyperReach is an awesome program that Burke County has, and you can get the same alerts sent right to your cell phone. I know I'm a millennial, I have my cell phone on me all the time. I think most other people do, they just might not want to admit it as much. I'll own it, but I do have my cell phone with me all the time. So it's kind of comforting to know that, if anything bad does happen, hopefully I'm a meteorologist, hopefully I know about it weather-wise before it happens, but I will get that alert. So it is good to know that. All sorts of services now. We'll do email alerts, TV, pick your favorite TV provider, family, friends. This was actually an issue in Paradise, California. A lot of the community, it's actually a retirement. Not the whole community isn't a retirement community, but a lot of retirees have moved to Paradise, California. It's a lovely place, mild, everything like that. A lot of them either weren't able to get the evacuation order, or if they did get the evacuation order, they didn't have anybody to get them to safety. Some of them couldn't drive, weren't mobile, things like that, some of these poor people. So check on your family, check on your friends, check on your neighbors. Say, hey, we just, again, hopefully not an evacuation order, but we just got this alert. Are you okay? Do you need us to help you, take you to safety, anything like that? So everyone get your phones out if you have a smartphone. If you'd like the FEMA app, that's the link to it. So that's a QR code. I put it on my phone. It's really easy. It just takes a second to set up. Very, very easy. You set it to your county, and you're good to go. It sends you an alert. It just sends a notification when you have a severe thunderstorm warning, winter weather alert, anything like that, you're going to get it. The wireless emergency alerts are a little different because they only do flash flood and tornado. Those are the only two you're going to get on the wireless emergency alert. But there are other types of dangerous weather out there. There are tropical systems, there are winter storms, there are things like that as well. So the FEMA app, awesome, and it also has a lot of good preparedness resources. And I know nobody ever wants to think about losing their home, or having to go through the process of cleaning up or rebuilding after a disaster. But if that unfortunate situation does happen, FEMA has some resources on that app as well to help. So I kind of can't push it enough. So how are you going to prepare? Number one, make an emergency supply kit. And I actually, not joking, have one of these and checked it again this morning because I saw winter weather in the forecast. It's not in the forecast yet for Greenville, South Carolina, but we're expecting an El Nino winter, so that means cooler and wetter than normal. You can get a guess from there where that might be going. We might see more winter weather than normal this year. It's a possibility. So I checked to make sure, do I have everything I need? You're going to want non-perishable food. And remember, this is for at least 3 days. I do peanut butter and crackers. I'm a goldfish fan, personally. I put goldfish in there. Anything that you like. Don't go putting your steak in here. Don't go get your milk and put it in here, anything like that. For winter weather, I put a tin of hot cocoa in there. That's why you get your milk, right? I think that's why they tell you to go out and get milk and bread so you can have your hot cocoa, I guess. Supplies for infants if you need them, 3 days. A first aid kit. Again, we might be assuming that nobody might be able to reach you for a couple days. If this is an ice storm, for example, there are going to be trees down, power lines down. No one might be able to get to you. So you want to be able to handle at least real basic stuff on your own. Any medications that you might need. Flashlights are big. Please, no candles. That can get ugly pretty fast. A lot of house fires actually happen after winter storms. People have candles, they knock them over, and then because the roads are icy and there are trees down, power lines down, fire crews can't get to your house to save it, to put out the fire. So please, no candles. Flashlights are great. Battery-powered radio is always going to be good as well. Stay up to date. with any type of weather alerts, with road closures, school closures, things like that. Batteries, of course, if you have a battery-powered radio, lots of batteries. And then chargers and power banks for your cell phones. Have y'all seen what are they called, the Mophie power banks? Any type of power bank is gonna work. You can get them now for, $5 on Amazon, basically. These little power banks for your cell phone. Charge all those up. Make sure they are ready to go. And put them in your emergency kit in case you do lose power. So for winter weather, we're gonna do all of the above, plus a lot of warm blankets. Can't really have enough of those, honestly, in my opinion. I went to Florida State and now I'm a wimp. So I have a lot of these. Gloves, hats, scarves, extra layers of clothing, anything to keep warm. You're assuming that you're gonna lose power, basically. Also plan for a heat source. So again, a wood or gas fireplace. Make sure you have plenty of wood, generator, and generator fuel if that's the route that you do wanna go. A note about generators though, because basically actually every single year since I have started working with the weather service at GSP in some way, shape, or form, so about 5 years now, since 2013, we have had carbon monoxide deaths in the wintertime from a generator because somebody used it improperly. So again, this might seem like a duh, but we have deaths every single year. So please use it outside, and outside doesn't mean in the garage, outside doesn't mean in the carport, outside doesn't mean, under your patio tent or anything like that, it means outside. Make sure it's in a well-ventilated area. This has actually happened before where somebody put their generator, thought it was fine outside, next to the air intake for their home. You can imagine how that went. In that particular case, I believe they got out before anybody died from carbon monoxide poisoning. And also just keep a working carbon monoxide monitor in the living spaces. That's just always a good idea, but especially if you're gonna be running a generator. So remember your pets. Yeah, these guys are back. My little troublemakers here. Really, again, a lot of people forget. They plan for their families, they might plan for their babies, they plan for their elderly neighbors, their parents, things like that. They don't plan for their pets. And then you see pets left behind in fires and floods and things like that. So food, again, 3 days, right? So plenty of food for them. Most of their food is non-perishable, so that's good. Water, just like humans, you do need 1 gallon per pet per day as well. Any type of vaccination and vet records. Keep those, kind of like you would with human medical records if you have those still on paper. Keep those with you, a copy of them. A collar or leash if you have a dog. Any type of carrier, like a cat carrier if you have a kitty. Something where you could confine them or keep them under control. In case of a disaster, you might have to leave your home. You do want to be able to control your animal. Any identification rabies tags you are going to keep with them. A carrier or crate is best. Collar and leash is always good for a dog, but a crate is also going to be a good idea. And then a picture of you with your pet. Again, nobody wants to think about, maybe your pet gets out or gets away from you or you lose your pet, but it happens, and in disasters it happens more often. So have a picture of you with your pet, keep it with you, whether it's on your phone. I have tons of them. I'm obsessed with my dogs, in case you couldn't tell. I have tons of them. Make sure, just in case for some reason you do need to verify that you're the owner of your pet. That usually works. So find a safe spot. We have the emergency kit. Now we need to make sure that you are in a safe location and that you're actually going to survive the disaster to use the emergency kit. So think of these things. Lowest level of your home is going to be number 1. That's going to keep you safe from those tornadoes especially. No windows or doors. Actually, my safe spot is my bathroom, and it looks a lot like that. That's not my bathroom, but it looks very much like that. A windowless bathroom is good. You don't want, I should clarify, exterior doors. Most rooms in a house are gonna have a door on them. You don't want a door to the outside. So sliding glass doors, outside doors, nothing like that. And then put your emergency kit there or close to it. For Tom and myself, my husband and myself, our emergency kit is actually in the hall closet right across from the bathroom. So if anything happens, open the door, grab the kit, throw it in the bathroom, wrangle the dogs, throw them in, and we're good to go. That's it. So keep it as simple as possible. Don't make it hard. Don't make it difficult on yourself. Don't make it, oh, where's this? Where's that? I don't know. In an emergency, you're probably not going to have a lot of time to think and debate a lot. So just make it automatic. Very easy. Know exactly what you're going to do, have your plan, and go do it. So you've got a plan. Awesome. What happens if you're not at home? Most people assume they're going to be at home. You could be at work. Kiddos might be at school. They might be out. For myself and my husband, we're almost definitely going to be at work. He works in TV, I work in the weather service, so if bad weather's happening, I'm probably going to be working. Personally, if I'm going to work, I keep my emergency kit in my vehicle with me. So I know that I'm going to have it anywhere I am. In order to mitigate that, make a family communication plan. You're going to need an out-of-town contact, so somebody who has probably not been impacted by the disaster that you can contact and say, hey, we're safe, or hey, we need resources, we need help, something like that. A designated meeting place. This is going to be important. And a designated meeting place both in the town where you are and a designated meeting place outside of the town where you are. Think of two. That actually becomes important. For example, Panama City, one of my very best friends, it was destroyed. A lot of it was unrecognizable. Her actual family meeting place was over in Destin. They had thought, hey, if anything really bad happens, we can't get to this meeting place, something like that. They actually ended up meeting with some of their extended family in Destin, Florida, which was it's roughly 15 miles just to the west. So make sure kids or their caretakers know these things too. A 3 or 4-year-old isn't gonna necessarily, be able to articulate every part of an emergency plan, but they can understand, hey, if something bad happens for weather, you need to go to grandma's house. Things like that. Finally, don't assume your cell phone is gonna work. This is a really, really big one. Don't assume you're gonna have internet. Don't assume your cell phone is going to work, because in a lot of disasters, it's not. Cell towers get damaged. Actually, one of my very first tornado surveys I ever did in the Weather Service, I had been in about 2 days. And the first thing I surveyed was a cell tower that had been taken out. And the people actually said, we didn't get the wireless emergency alerts. And I looked up the cell tower. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess you probably didn't, because that's where they come from, is from cell phone towers. So where does preparedness go wrong? These are bad assumptions people make that end up getting them into trouble. And I've seen these again and again, and I have actually assumed all of these things myself and then seen myself proven wrong, thankfully by disasters and other places. But you think these disasters, Paradise, California, Hurricane Harvey in Houston, that's unimaginable. That could never happen to me. That's the type of thinking that got a lot of these people into trouble. So the first bad assumption, help will be able to reach you immediately in a disaster. This is incorrect. In a lot of cases, for example, Mexico Beach, it's just south of Panama City on the coast with Hurricane Michael. A lot of areas first responders couldn't reach for more than a week to 10 days. That's a long time, and you have to survive on your own. They didn't have city water. They didn't have any power. They had to survive on their own, the people that didn't evacuate. You're probably going to be on your own. In general, at least for the duration of the disaster. Nowadays, and a lot of, especially coastal counties, but most counties nowadays do implement a cutoff for when they cannot send their first responders out anymore. For a lot of the coastal counties, it's actually the onset of tropical storm force winds, 40 miles an hour sustained. That's it. You can call 911, and they're not coming for you. They seriously, these policies exist so that these first responders don't put their lives in danger and end up killed because somebody else decided not to evacuate. So that, I'm not entirely sure what the policy is in Burke County, but that's a very common thing to protect the first responders as well. So keep that in mind. You're probably going to be on your own for just a little bit. This next one, more resources or supplies are going to be able to reach you within a day or so after the dangerous weather passes. Also, that's going to be a no. And actually, water is one of the biggest things. A human can't go more than 3 days without water. So if you haven't stored water and you don't get supplies for a week, that's going to end up being a problem. So make sure, especially the water and the food, you have stored up and ready to go. People assume they're going to keep power during a disaster, which is a very poor assumption, especially in the wintertime. Again, not so much in the lower elevations, but in some higher elevations and mountains here, you can actually have people that come very close to freezing to death in their own homes because they assumed they would keep power. Maybe they hadn't lost it before. They assumed they were going to keep power and they didn't. They lost power. They had no fuel. They had no wood, no generator fuel, nothing like that. And it became a problem. Again, this assumption I already talked about a little bit. You'll have cell service or internet during and after a disaster. Don't assume you're going to have access to the internet. That's number one. First of all, your Wi-Fi is probably going down. You're probably going to lose power in a lot of these cases. No Wi-Fi. I don't know how you hook your cell phone up to the wall to get internet. I don't think it's possible. So that's not going to happen. Don't assume you're going to have internet. Also, don't assume you're going to have cell service. Now, texts in general are better than calls. So actually, again, I keep mentioning my friend in Panama City during Michael, I was their out-of-town contact for her family. I'm all the way up in South Carolina. They knew I would probably be safe. We got a little bit of weather up here, but not too much. So she couldn't call me. We lost touch for almost 24 hours after the disaster. Well, she was in the eye wall. But texts came through very, very, very slowly. They don't tax the cell service or the cell towers as much. So texts in general can get through where calls might not sometimes. And the last one is one that's really easy to fall into. Because something bad hasn't happened to you before, it's not going to happen this time. There's a first time for everything. You know, this place has never flooded before. I've never seen it happen. Maybe and again, you're outside the 1,000-year floodplain, but you have a 1 in 10,000-year flood. It has absolutely happened. We've seen it again and again and again. Again, the fires. You know, a lot of people, a lot of communities assume this is never going to happen to me. It absolutely can. You know, again, if we, for example, have a drought like we did in 2016, we get very vulnerable to fires in this area, especially with any type of terrain. Fire can travel very quickly. Again, you assume, oh, we haven't had an ice storm here. I was talking to Mike, we haven't had an ice storm in a while, thank goodness. Yeah, that doesn't mean it's not going to happen again. So please, please don't fall into that line of thinking. That's it. I'm not going to bore you any longer. Thank you so much. These are more resources. These are all awesome for weather safety, preparedness information. Our local forecast, weather.gov/GSP. We're the Greenville-Spartanburg office, but we do all the Western Carolinas. Any type of resources you might need for preparedness, weather education, things like that, stuff for kids, awesome as well. And then please, if you have any questions, send us an email. My actual personal email, I can give that to you as well, but this one is monitored all the time because everybody in the office has access to this, all the meteorologists do. So this one will get usually the fastest response as well. So any particular questions? Anybody want to know the forecast for Thursday? I did brief myself right before I left on the latest. Right now it looks like patchy freezing rain in most of Burke County, so from Morganton specifically, Shelby. Mostly freezing rain, very, very patchy. Probably only a couple hours, but anytime, I'm going to say like 7 to 8 p.m. tomorrow night to about 8 a.m. in the morning, you could have slick roads. So you're going to want to be careful. Again, it's one of those, you might not see it on the trees, but if the road looks wet, there's probably a good chance that there's some ice on it that's frozen. So black ice is probably going to be a problem. In the mountains, we're expecting up to a ½ inch of ice, which could be very dangerous. That's when trees fall, power lines go down, and that's possible elsewhere in the county as well. But stay safe, heads up. I'm really happy this one isn't going to hit Greenville, but unfortunately it's been a while since we've gotten an ice storm too, so I don't think we're going to get that lucky all winter. So thank you. Anybody have any questions? Feel free to come up and see me. I also have, I was talking about the family communication plans. I have these forms here. Super easy to fill out. Carry it with you. Put it in your kid's backpack is actually a common thing parents will do. Just so you have all the contact information, feel free. And then I also have some guides on winter storms. I thought that was kind of relevant. So those are up here, and how to stay safe from lightning, tornadoes, severe thunderstorms, all of that. So feel free to come up, get it, come ask me questions. I promise I'm nice. Mike can verify. Yes.
You may know or may not know, how does it look for our area in the next couple of months, this winter?
Okay, so our winter weather outlook right now, I mentioned El Nino, which doesn't mean a whole lot to most people. What it means to us is the southeast is going to be cooler than normal in general, on average, and it's also probably going to be wetter than normal. So probably more rain than usual, probably a wet winter. Overall, we've already actually seen the pattern kind of starting to come up. It's been real rainy lately. We expect that to continue. And then these above or below average temperatures, I should say, probably going to continue at least for a little bit. It might not be like that every single day, but on average, it's going to be cooler and wetter. So unfortunately, that does make winter weather a little bit more likely. Bad winter weather. So I know, wish I had better news for y'all, but I know we're in it together. We'll get through it. Yes.
Do you still use weather spotters?
Yes, quite a bit actually. And especially, I should say, in winter weather. Actually becomes really, really important. We don't have a method using our automated sensors to measure snowfall or ice accumulation. So we rely on our spotters and other people to give us reports. So yes, absolutely. But in severe weather as well and things like that.
You still have training for weather?
We do have training for weather spotters. Nowadays, there's one online we can do, but periodically we do them just in person. Show up and do a spotter training. So yes, we do. Yep, we love our spotters. Actually, Spotter Appreciation Day is coming up here in early December. So yes. Anybody else? Good. Cool. All right. Are you up? Who's up? Anybody else? Chris is sitting there looking at me.
We're gonna let you go. Also asked Chris White to come. A lot of you don't know Chris. He's with the Foothills Weather Network, and he's also one of our supervisors at the Communications Center. So Chris has studied weather a lot, and we rely on him pretty heavily, local, to keep us abreast of what's going on. And in saying that, just know that these weather people like each other. They talk to each other quite a bit. And it's very helpful to people in my position that every day when there's weather coming, weather service, Chris, I'll get at least 2 or 3 messages from them every day. Calls if they want to know how things are going here. A lot of times they'll call, and they're in constant communication with all the counties. So I just want to give kudos to these folks because they stay up around the clock watching out for us and trying to give us as much heads up about weather as they can. And that means a lot to me. I'm not a meteorologist, I'm a fireman. And to have these folks that do this for us, it's very much appreciated. So thank you.
We love what we do. We love it. We're professional nerds, but we love it.
Well, I wanted Chris to have opportunity to talk to you just a little bit and tell him about what they do locally. And Chris has had some pretty unique experiences with weather. I don't know if he wants to tell you about it or not, but he's been through a lot with it. So, and then when Chris gets through, I want to introduce Angela. Angela's the operations manager for the 911 center, and she's going to explain how to go through the HyperReach system and get registered so that you can get alerts from our communication center.
Yeah, we have a very versatile communication center in Burke County. We have people from all Jackson trades, and I think it works really well when we all put our heads together and come up with a game plan that helps Mike and supports his plan in the emergency management field. So my part of my job is Foothills Weather Network. I started this company way back in 2009, following I was out with the Forest Service at the time, and we were in June of 2008. We're fighting a wildfire in Caldwell County, and lightning struck 8 of us. So I was down and out from that, and in dealing with that, Facebook was coming along and growing, and started this little weather page, and we formed partnerships with the Weather Service that are still ongoing today and are really getting stronger as we move forward. And right here at home it started. Now we cover 8 counties in western North Carolina with weather information in partnership with the Weather Service and support emergency management functions as well. Kind of run 2 companies now. One's Burke Weather, which is kind of the nonprofit that supports the emergency management branch, and our office is actually in McDowell County Emergency Operations in their Emergency Operations Center. And then I run Foothills Weather Network, which is for-profit, but not really to make a profit. It's just there because we have to make money to support the business. Unfortunately, this past year that forced my hand to go to a charging service, which is $9.98 a year or 84 cents a month that we had to make the decision to do, because to stay up with technology, you've got to stay abreast of and get the latest of what's coming in and stuff. So in doing so, we hope to make Foothills Weather bigger and better, and we have a lot of information from the Weather Service on our new website and stuff, and that's foothillsweathernetwork.com. You can come there. I also want to plug Kokoraz, because you were asking about the spotter program, and you know, we can only see so much behind a desk looking at a computer monitor or whatever, but the Kokoraz network, help me, what does it stand for? The collaborative?
Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network.
Yeah, Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. But it's a group, it's a big community that's formed all throughout the country, and you report rainfall totals every morning at around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock in the morning, and it comes into a computer database, and we're able to see that. Rainfall that falls right here at this location is going to be different than what falls even at I-40 or even up on the hill at Broughton. It varies there's a very wide aspect, and a lot of that up here is terrain driven. We've had a lot of high rainfall totals in the western part of the county, whereas down east, even though it's been wet, it's not been as wet as it has been in the west. So I'll keep mine short. That's really all I have. Foothillsweathernetwork.com, and we're here to serve you guys too, in partnership with the Weather Service. And like I said, all the meteorologists, we all talk to one another about things that are going on. We're talking now about the ice threat that's coming and the ice storm threat that's coming, especially for the mountains over the next couple of days. So that's all I have. Angela, the floor is yours.
I'm Angela Hibbard, and I am Operations Manager at 911 Center. And we have an emergency notification system that we use to notify the public when we need to get out a message. It could be flooding, it could be that we need a certain area to evacuate, it could be that law enforcement's looking for someone, it could be a lost child, something where we need to get in contact with a certain area. Hyperreach is based off of your address. So if you're not home, and there's something going on in your neighborhood, say if we have a road closed off because we're searching for someone, you're not going to know that if you're not there. So you can get an emergency message that goes out based on just your address that comes straight to your cell phone. And you can register as many cell phones as you'd like to based on your address. You could have, I think I registered one that had 10 cell phones at one address. And it's super simple to do. You can do it on your phone if you have a cell phone. The number that you would text is, you would text Burke Alerts, and that is 828-295-1101. And if you text that to Burke, text in there Burke Alerts, and it'll give you a link. You tap on that, and you can register your address and your phone number with that. You can also go to our Burke County website, and you'll scroll down. You go to communications. I think you have to go to departments up top and go to emergency communications and scroll down, that red button, Hyperreach. You can click on that and plug in all your information, how you want it, if you want a phone call or just a text message, and you submit it, and that's it. And you can also go and unsubmit yourself if you don't like to get messages. We don't send out messages a whole lot. Again, it's just specific to your area. If you lived at 123 Main Street and we have that encompassed in a 1 mile area that we're searching for someone or that we need to evacuate, that's when you would get the message. So we don't send out a ton. We sent quite a few out during hurricane. We were getting ready for the hurricane, and we have some areas that are more flood prone. We would send messages out to them, and it's just community related. So it's not national stuff. It's not anything major that the Weather Service put out. It would just be locally. Do I have any questions?
can I say how lucky Burke County is to have something like that? Because a lot of our counties don't have that type of resource. And the fact that they actively use it to send out alerts and things like that is awesome.
It's
These
great.
guys know what they're doing.
It's helped us locate missing persons. It's helped us locate children who have been lost. We're really happy with HyperReach. We've really gotten good use out of that. Oh, we do have, again, on our Burke County Registry, the Vulnerable Population Registry application. You can click on that and open that up. And if you have someone who, in case of an emergency or an evacuation, something like that, would need help from emergency services, you can fill out that information. And we can flag your, we actually place this address on the map, and we also flag your address in our CAD system when, if you would call in, you would need extra help. We flag that, and it's just for communications, just for 911 purposes or emergency management. And anything that's medically related, you can list on there anything you would need help with. You can list all the information on there. And when you submit it, it comes to me, and then I do my part with it, and then I send it to Mike. And he finishes up on the emergency service end. But that's pretty new. We've had that just a few months. And when we were getting ready for what we thought was going to be a big hurricane impact, we had a ton of them come in, and our system worked really well.
Does this work with people that are on oxygen?
Yes.
Does Burke County have a way besides this of knowing who's on oxygen, and if there's going to be a power outage or if it's not pre-planned, how do you hook up with those people that are on oxygen?
That's kind of the intent of the registry, is it's totally voluntary, so it's only people that want to. It helps us in planning, if we know it, and we gotta be real careful with HIPAA stuff. We don't wanna get into anybody's personal information, but we've been able to put this in the database. We can query a location that we either know is a planned or we have a unsuspected power failure somewhere. And we work with the power company to say, okay, we have X number of people. So we have 150 people in this area that's affected that are on oxygen generators, and we need to be thinking about that. So it helps me in being able to communicate with the power companies to get power restored as quick as we can. And if they can, it helps me plan on an alternate way to get oxygen to people if they do need it.
So just go on the internet and go to Burke County, is that the website?
Yes, ma'am. Go to burkenc.org, and from there you can select emergency management, where our vulnerable population is, and the HyperReach is under the 911 section. We need to get that.
What's the address again, Burke what?
burkenc.org.
Is it all lowercase?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And hopefully, as we grow and build, we're working real close with communications and EMS to help build our website and get more and more information on it as time goes. So hopefully, it'll be a good resource for folks. And we also have an app, a Burke NC app, that if you've got a smartphone, it's good to have on your phone too, that you can see a lot of the same information.
Do you happen to know if the counties of Caldwell, Alexander, or McDowell might have similar things? I mean, I know that you communicate sometimes between counties.
They have, I think Caldwell has a system called Code Red. I'm not sure about the other counties. I think we're the only county in the western part of North Carolina that has HyperReach. Yeah, I know Iredell has HyperReach. So from Iredell towards the east, there's several counties that use HyperReach there.
And when did this go into effect, the HyperReach?
As soon as you put your phone number and your
When
address
did
in,
you originate the program?
they've had it 4 years, 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
And your landlines are automatically pulled into it.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
It's the only thing you have to register is your mobile devices. But your home address, your home telephones are pulled into the 911 system and pulled into that. So if you don't want your cell phone on it, you don't have to do it. That's the only ones that has to be registered. And it's a third-party vendor, so there's a lot of different companies out there that do it. It's just the one we selected was HyperReach.
I'm just curious, because I oversee group homes in those different counties, and I'll just, I mean, I'm probably gonna look into some of the, like the vulnerable population registry for the ones that I have in Burke County, but I was just kind of curious if there might be a similar program going on in these other counties as well.
Most of them do have something similar to it. I know as far as our vulnerable population, ours and Catawba's almost mirror each other.
Okay.
Some counties are doing it, some are not. Because it's a lot to keep up with.
You know if there's anything on a statewide level at this point?
For-
Like vulnerable population or anything along those lines?
Not at the state level.
Not the state level.
They leave that up to individual counties to
Okay.
make.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
This doesn't really relate to this in the way it does. Before I ask you the question, let me ask you another question. Just when I call 911, does the person receiving my call know where that call is coming from?
If you're calling from a landline, we know your address and your phone number and your name.
So you do know?
If you're calling from a landline, we do.
Okay, now my question. Why?
Go ahead, Chris.
The thing with the voice over internet phones, though, you have to call your phone company and make sure your address is
Yes.
updated with them.
Your voice over IP phones, if you lived in Florida and you have that phone there and you come here, that phone is still, and you keep the same number, it's still in Florida. So you have to call them and physically talk to them and tell them.
That's the
that
cell
you-
phone only.
No, that's a voice, like a voice over phone.
I'm
that
not
you have.
familiar with it, so.
Okay. Cell phones, now with cell phones, we can get a general location. It gets us within a few hundred feet of where you are, but it doesn't tell us exactly where you are when you call.
Now, here's the reason I asked the question. When I call 911 to report a fire,
Okay?
the person receiving the call wants to know my family history.
Was
They're
it,
not interested in getting the fire department to me. They want all this other
Information.
train load of information.
so we should be asking your address, your phone number, your name, and what the address of where the emergency is at. Those are the first questions that we ask. If they ask you other information, like if it's a medical call, then we do have additional questioning because we do emergency medical dispatch. And those are questions that are predetermined for certain diagnosis or certain problems, things like that you're calling it about.
Well, if I call to report a fire,
Then while we're asking this question, somebody's already dispatching help to you. We have 8 or 9 on a shift, and we work very well together in partners. So while those questions are being asked, my partner sitting across from me already has the information on her computer and is already sending it out. But we're just getting additional information, especially for medical calls, for those EMS personnel that are responding, so they know what equipment to bring into you when they come.
So when you initially make that call, then I guess what he's not, we reported a fire and they just kept drilling us about information, and it was within a couple houses of us, and it was a place where it shouldn't have been a fire. Somebody was burning something.
Gotcha.
And couldn't figure out why they kept talking. I said, I don't need you to talk, I need for you to get out.
Yeah, so even with a fire, when we get those calls, those things are going out, those are priority calls that drop automatically, and they go to the dispatcher, and those are being sent out while they're asking that additional.
Okay.
It could be if you do know who lives there,
Right.
do you know if they're out of the house, because that's good for when the fire department gets there and the fire marshal, see if they need to make that interior attack and try to get somebody out of the house, and who it may be. They may be disabled, or if you know anything about it, even what color smoke you see.
Right, it would be nice if they would tell you that instead
They
of.
should.
And they don't, or they didn't. And so it was real frustrating in trying to have them understand that there was a fire there. There shouldn't be one, and it was too close to, it was right, there was lots of houses right around. I wasn't sure what was going on, and they just kept asking questions, and I think I finally hung up. But they did come, and I think it was just frustrating for both of us to know we didn't know that was happening, and that's what we wanted to know. So the other question I have is that our phone number, our phone number doesn't have a name attached to it, it shows up unavailable or whatever, does that phone number still show our name and address?
So is it an unpublished number?
It's an unpublished number, it's not an unlisted number, it's
Okay.
just unpublished.
Okay, no, we would still get that information.
Okay, that's another
We
thing
would still
that I
get that
have a question
information.
about, and I guess when you go back and publish it, things just change so much over the last few years, but.
As far as your 911 goes, you don't need to.
Okay.
If you like it is, leave it like it is.
Okay.
It doesn't
Because
change
it's
anything
gonna
for us.
pop up.
We still have all that information.
It used to be, when I was a kid, and that's a long time ago, I grew up in Statesville, we had on every various corners an alarm box. Had a little roof on it, little pull handle,
Yep.
little button in there like a light switch, push down. And uptown, the fire alarm went off.
Right.
And it's county, it was a clack horn, and it bar alarm like the one they used to have in Valley. And that thing would blow, and you knew that the fire department was on their way. And if it was big enough, they would blow it again, and that would bring the volunteers out. Now, the advantages of that is when you went in there and pulled that box down and pulled that little trigger down, and it caused the alarm to blow up at the fire department, you knew the fire department was on the way. When you dial 911 now, you don't know whether the fire department's on the
He's
way.
hard of hearing, so he didn't hear your
Well,
answer.
as soon as we get your information, as soon as we get the address.
That's all right. He
And
wouldn't
what's
hear
going
you
on, we drop that
regardless.
call and we send help. We do still ask questions though, just to help prepare the responders for what they're going into.
What you didn't hear was back here, he was saying that they dispatch immediately, and they're still asking you questions, but somebody's coming. He's hard of hearing, so he's not hearing or grabbing all of it.
Oh, I understand
There's
that.
some advantages to it.
And it's, I agree wholeheartedly. We live in a different time,
Yes.
and there's a lot of new technology that's out, and the way we do things are a little bit different. And we need to do, us and emergency services need to do a better job in getting that information out to the public is how we do things. And Chris is exactly right, you know, if you go over there and sit and watch them, it's kind of amazing
Amazing.
to see how many calls they take in a day, what information they collect, and how much is actually taking place. They're dispatching for the police department, the sheriff's department, EMS, all of our, it's all done in one room. And while one's taking a call, one, if not more, are getting it out to the people. And we do need to do a better job of getting, and letting you know that. They're on the way, you know, and I need to ask you some more
Yeah,
questions.
we appreciate that, because I don't think that we're aware of it, and I'm sure there's others that
Oh,
are.
yes.
And it gets to be a little bit frustrating, so.
Back in my old days, which is not as much as yours, but still,
Yeah.
there was one telephone and one
Yeah.
person doing all the dispatching. And it's not that way anymore. It's pretty high tech, kind of what goes on. But that's something for us to work on.
And you guys, you're welcome to come by and visit sometime. We would welcome you with open arms. Come by and see
You
how.
probably wouldn't welcome me.
Yeah, we would, come on up.
I have too many questions and I make too many calls, so.
Oh, no,
We like questions.
yeah. Well, what we're trying to do is to build a better resilient Burke County. It's very difficult for a county of our size, you know, our population is 90,000. With our emergency service people, we can't get to everybody immediately. So we want to do all we can to try to educate our citizens of what to do to help take care of themselves. And I've got a pretty soft spot for the elderly and for children. And if you've got elderly neighbors, please reach out and check on them. Just make sure they're okay and they've got what they need, and especially with medications, we'll do everything within our power to help anybody in this county, but we can't get to everybody at one time. So the more you're ready for yourself, the better. So that's our whole hope. And Lauren, thank you for coming. I hope that this message gets out to a whole lot of people, and maybe we can have you back sometime and and do this again in the coming year. But thank y'all for coming, and any questions y'all got? While you got the communications folks here and the weather service here,
It can be anything. I get held a snow form.
free handout. Kind of how stuff flies with the weather. Interesting sometimes. Well, thank y'all.
Yeah, thank y'all.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate